Happy Tuesday again, everyone. Pastor Dwight, how are you?
Alicia, now that I'm with you, I'm doing fine.
I appreciate that. We want to welcome you to the live stream here. We're sitting down with Pastor Dwight Nelson, from the lead pastor at Pioneer Memorial Church. Today, the discussion is going to be amazing. We're talking about online evangelism. We're talking about your blog. Before we get into that, we want to encourage you to check out our Facebook page, Center for Online Evangelism. Check out our website, centerforonlineevangelism.org. The idea is to reach the 3.5 billion people who are online with the gospel, with the good news, to let them know that there's a God who loves them, who cares about them, and so that we can just go home and be with the Master.
3.5 billion.
3.5 billion. That's
Mercy.
half of the world's population.
Yeah, sure is.
And so if it comes to reaching people, online is one of the main ways that we can reach them. But I want to ask you, what are your personal thoughts about online evangelism and reaching people through the internet?
That's a great question, Felicia. My humble opinion is that if Paul were alive today, and he were on the other end, saying, "Oh, I wonder what these kids are going to say about online evangelism," he would already be in it. He was seizing every modem, every mode he could find to connect with society.
So he'd have a Facebook page and a Twitter
Oh, I
account.
think Jesus, if he were here, he'd do the same. Why? Because they came. Christ himself came. The light that lightens every man and woman coming into the world. He came so that they could see that light. So he would want to go where the people were. In fact, if you trace Jesus' footsteps in the Gospels,
Right.
it's always where the crowds are.
But some persons may have the thought that when it comes to online evangelism and using social media, because the dangers are so much, that is something that we should probably steer clear away, and the church shouldn't get too involved in that.
Yeah, I suppose that one could be sincere, genuine, and hold that conviction. I disagree with the conviction. Why? Again, God's passion is to save every man, woman, and child on this planet.
Right.
Just give me access, he says. If I give you a tool, he says, where you will be able to connect with 3.5 billion people. What am I going to say? Lord, that tool is a bit risky.
Right.
It's a bit iffy. You know what happens on social media.
Right.
So let's not go there. Paul would be in these amphitheaters. Okay, well, you know what happens in these amphitheaters.
Right.
But Paul
Lots of
goes
good
there.
stuff.
Yeah, but Paul goes there. Why? Because it's contact with people. So I appreciate the conviction. Be careful. And let's be honest, there is a downside to social media.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I'm reading books on them right now. Psychologists dealing with what's happening because of the social media mindset. What the technology is actually doing to the wiring of our brains,
And our relationships and so forth.
Everything.
But we could also put that positive influence out there.
Yes, we can.
So I just want to remind you, if you're tuning in, to share this video, give us a thumbs up. Also tag your pastors and your church leaders and communication directors. So we're talking about online evangelism. And one of the main things when it comes to reaching out to other people is through maybe a blog. I know I personally, there are blogs that I follow that help me in my personal relationship with Christ and so forth. Now, you have an amazing blog. And first of all, why did you get started with a blog? We usually don't associate pastors with blogging and writing.
Yeah.
How did you get started?
Well, several years ago, Felicia, I'm just trying to do the arithmetic. I'm thinking it's about 2004. I read an article in USA Today. Okay, so 2004. What's that? 14 years ago.
Just about.
Yeah.
Almost
So I read this
15.
article, and it's talking about blogging, and it's making the case for blogging.
Right.
And I'm thinking, man, that guy's making a good point. I've been hearing the word blog and blogger, but it was just coming into its own.
Okay.
And so I talked with Janine Lim, who's in charge of online education, or one of the leaders for the university, okay, for their online teaching. And because she was helping us with our website at the time, and I said, Janine, what about this blog idea? She
Right.
said, Dwight, you ought to think about it. So I didn't start a blog back then. I'd have to go on. I think it's probably back to 2008, so about 10 years now. But I found, and I'm not a daily blogger. I have
Right.
friends who are just every day.
Right.
On Facebook,
Putting
telling them
things up.
everywhere they've done, what I just ate, that kind of thing. I'm just not into that.
Okay.
Wrong generation.
Right.
Okay.
And time too. That takes a lot of
Oh,
time.
it takes a lot of time. But I do a blog a week. And we set it up so that I would write them on Wednesdays. They would go into the bulletin when they go to the press Wednesday night. They would go online Wednesday night at the same time. And that blog becomes a chance for me to deal with material that I'm just not going to deal with from the pulpit on
Right.
Sabbath. I don't want to get into this.
Right.
And the title of my blog is Fourth Watch. And in the Roman system of timekeeping, the fourth watch is the darkest hour before daybreak. And I believe we're living in the fourth watch of Earth's history right now. So hence, my bias in the blog is always looking at the headlines. What's new? What's out there? What can I respond to? Draw some moral from it, or say, time out, folks, something's coming. And so that's the genesis of the blog.
Now, there may be some pastors or church leaders who are listening to you and think, I want to start a blog, but I'm not a good writer. I don't know where the thoughts would come from. Did you have any of those ideas when you were starting the blog?
Let me tell you what I say to people, because I teach a method of praying that involves writing as well. So when I'm working with a group of young adults or not so young adults, and I say, I know what you're saying. I cannot write. I simply cannot write. And I say to myself, excuse me just a minute.
He's grabbing some too.
I say to myself, you can't write? What were you just doing with your thumb for the last 5 minutes?
True.
Waiting for this meeting to start. Don't tell me you don't know how to write. You write all day long.
It's true.
So that's my point. We write. We know how to write. Okay, so I don't spell cool. Well, that's all right. You're still writing. And there are people that want to read. They're not even looking at the grammar. You know why? Because they don't know it.
Right.
Yeah, but so anyway, Felicia, you can write. You don't have to be a gifted writer. You just write.
Right.
Because you're right now. You're sending emails every day in text. Take that same energy now and say, what could I say? What could I put online on my Facebook page or yada, yada, yada. I tweet as well. I tweet once a week. You can write. And Jesus can use, the Holy Spirit can use what you write and touch somebody else who's saying, man, I'm thinking just like her.
Right.
I'm thinking just like her. She's right on.
And the idea about blogging is that content is always there. Someone can always go online and they can read it, use it as a devotional thought. And I'm going to come back to...
That's a plus and a minus, by the way.
Well,
the
sure.
content, you said, man, I wish that content were there now. And there are some ways you could delete content that you just say, man, that would not be appropriate now. But you're right. It's there to go on ministering if you leave it there.
Right.
Yeah.
Something that comes to mind is Pastor Michael Polite has been blogging.
Yep.
He's been having a situation in his life and has
Huge.
been sharing that. And I personally have been so encouraged through that blog.
Yeah,
He's not there online or on the pulpit speaking, but because he's writing, he's sharing, and people are commenting.
People are praying.
People are praying all over the world, all through a blog. Now, with your personal blog, the latest one was Crochet Hope, talking about this woman who spent 30 hours after an earthquake underground.
Yeah, in Italy.
Yes, and after they rescued her, they asked her, how did you survive down there? And she said that she was crocheting.
She said, all I was doing was crocheting. I knew
Yes.
help would come sometime.
Right,
Yeah.
and you link that in your blog to having hope, even when we feel as if the world is crashing down on us,
Yeah.
especially in this Easter time, we can still have hope. And one gentleman commented under the blog post and said that he was reading it and he was watching the program, and after 2 years, he was struggling with depression over divorce and being falsely accused of molesting his daughters and so forth, and he was just pouring out his heart
It was amazing to
through
me.
a blog post.
I mean, I printed it off. It's a full page of
Yes.
single space. He went to the blog site 4 o'clock that morning.
Right.
He was channel surfing, and he came across our New Perceptions telecast. He
Right.
watches the telecast, gets the website, goes
Right.
on, finds there's a blog, reads the blog, and then writes nothing about the blog and everything about his journey, because he just was reaching out. Somebody help me. He was christened. He was sprinkled as a baby in one denomination,
Right,
baptized by
baptized.
immersion in another. And you can guess who that second one is. Not an Adventist. So he's not a member of our faith community, but he just needed to talk to somebody. So Friday night, the Lord said, Dwight, you got to get back to that. And so I just sat down and just wrote a long response to him to say, listen, don't give up. Jesus is with you. This looks awful right now, but God is never going to abandon you.
Amen.
Yeah.
And all of that is through a pastor's blog, and that's why we're encouraging pastors, church leaders, members to get involved in online evangelism. Maybe that's through a blog or through a YouTube channel, whatever it is that the Lord is leading you to. Do that. We have resources to help you, Center for Online Evangelism, so check out the website and the Facebook page. Now, when you see testimonials like that, what goes through your mind? What goes on in your heart? How do you feel about things like that?
My heart really was drawn into his heartache. I mean, you read the response. And that's very interesting, isn't it? Because that response is posted there for the whole world to read as well. But that was his only way of knowing how to communicate. And what happened inside of me, Felicia, was, dear God, here is a man suffering. He knows about Jesus. He has lived in the church, but he's been cut off, and he's desperate. I have to do something. I'll never meet him. We'll never touch each other. But if I don't say something, I'm missing a golden moment for you. So the Holy Spirit says, come on, Dwight. And I'm learning now, Felicia, because I've been focusing on the baptism of the daily baptism of the Holy Spirit in my preaching here on campus. But I'm learning now to whenever I sit down to write, just Holy Spirit, you got to write this. You're just going to have to write this.
Right.
And I can tell if you take up that kind of writing, I want to assure you that the Spirit goes to that prayer, and you will sense the Holy Spirit just helping you.
He does. It's true.
Move your fingers. Now He's not moving your fingers. You're thinking the thoughts, but He's putting them into your mind, and you become the incarnation of the Holy Spirit to a human being that desperately needs that.
And the whole idea is that the more content that we have, people who are searching for hope, whether they're in a desperate situation like this gentleman, or who just need some advice and some counsel or some guidance, they can find that through a blog. Now, do you have a specific strategy for when it comes to crafting your articles and sending them out? Do you have a specific thing that you do each week?
I wish I could tell you, Felicia. There's a brilliant strategy behind all this, where it's carefully in a notebook, and I'm just following. No, are you kidding? Every morning, on my Wednesday morning worships that I have, I say, God, no, I have to write a blog today, and it has to be done by 11:30 because they got to get it in the bulletin. So please, you have breakfast time now, and showering, shaving, and breakfast, and then I got to know. And it's just like that every week. It's not like once in a while a story will come up.
Right.
A story will come up, and I say, man, tomorrow when I write, that's going to be it. But that's really rare. Most often it's quickly scanning the headlines. Yeah. Because it's fourth watch. So what's happening on the planet that might be of interest to readers and people who think, and there's no voice. It's just, okay, I'll do that one. Billy Graham died 4 weeks ago. And I knew when I was having breakfast, because I'd see it in the headline, last night, Billy Graham, the great preacher, died. I said, okay, I'm doing it on Billy Graham, but what should I do? And so I had to find material, but it worked. Right. And so that's how it works for me.
And what I'm getting from this too, you don't always have to feel like you are a seasoned writer and that you have to be a blogger. However, we do have resources. And so, for example, the Center for Online Evangelism, you can sign up to newsletters where we give you counsel or ideas, other resources that can help you in your writing and setting up a blog. Now, what I'm really eager to talk about is Hope Trending. That happened some time ago. It was streamed all over the world. This was a form of online evangelism. Tell us a little bit about this for those who may not be familiar with Hope Trending.
Sure. Hope Trending took place in October of 2016, so that's about a year and a half ago. We were sitting around as a leadership team here at Pioneer. I got 4 or 5 pastors who are all in their mid-30s, plus a couple others. So that's our pastoral team. And these younger pastors, of course, are thoroughly immersed in social media, Facebook, Twitter, yada, yada, yada. So we're saying, man, there's a world out there. And that same Paul conviction. Look, if Paul were alive, he'd be doing something. He would just sit there. Well,
reaching the people where they are.
Good luck, social media. God be with you. Are you kidding? He said, I got to have a presence there.
Right.
I just have to. That was with Billy Graham. When television was just in its nascent formation, he said, we got to do something. And that's how stuff happens. It takes just one dreamer, one human being who's willing to risk, because you got to risk failure. You got to risk this.
That's a tough one, though.
This is not going to turn out very well. It's very possible people are going to say, ooh, you shouldn't have tried. No, it's the other way around. You should have tried. Because it takes that many. How many was it? Alexander Graham Bell? How many? Or is that who it was? Graham Bell inventing the telephone and all that. Yeah. How many tries? How many attempts before finally he gets something? So we got to try. We're talking about the everlasting gospel. We're talking about the King of the universe, the Creator, who says, hey, boys and girls, I have asked you to follow me. I will empower. I will make you. I'll make you a fisher of women. I'll make you a fisher of men. I'll do the making. You just do the availability. And if you're available, I'll shape it. Don't worry about it. Just do it.
And he said he'd fill us with his power in Acts chapter 1.
Yeah, Acts chapter 1, verse 8. The Holy Spirit comes upon you. So anyway, we sat in the circle. We put some control groups together on campus. Gave them a blank check, as it were, a blank sheet of paper. Hey, if you could do something to reach this generation using online, what would you do? We listened. 3 separate groups. None of them heard each other. We took all of that together, came back to our senior team, and said, all right, what are we hearing here? Here's what we're hearing. It needs to be very short, TED Talk length. Okay, so that's where all the talks are TED Talk length. It needs to be variety. So there needs to be some music, but it'll be only original composition music by people younger. There needs to be a panel. Some of the late night stuff on TV apparently has panels. People on panels. They're sitting on Bill Maher or whoever these guys are, and they're just sitting around, a bunch of guys, and they're just pump, 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 pump. So we put all those elements together, and it ended up being Hope Trending. We field tested a name, put it online. People voted on a name. Right. So we just kind of let this crowdsourcing idea, that crowd responding idea, give us something. And we knew where we were going, so we weren't willing to negotiate the whole thing away. In other words, I knew what the 10 subjects were going to be. We didn't ask people, what would be the 10 subjects you'd talk about? No, we have some content, and it's going to be communicating the everlasting gospel. So, long story longer, Felicia, we set up teams here in the church. We got a space for it, the Howard Performing Arts Center. Hope Television, luckily for us, heard about it. So they said, can we come on and watch, and we'll just broadcast it live. So that then expanded the reach, which is what we were about anyway.
Facebook,
then it was Facebook Live, and then online we had a hopetrending.org.
Right.
And by the way, all of those talks are there now, the entire program, hopetrending.org. So that's the genesis of it. It was a lot of work. We probably needed more time. We tried to rally troops across the country. North American Division, Dan Jackson, the president, graciously came in and said, sure, I'll help you, Dwight, and gave us some money, which we desperately had to have. Otherwise, it was self-funded by the congregation here. NAD was the heavy lifter. Anyway, so we went online, and
it spread throughout the entire world, like people all over.
Well, I would like to think it did. I really don't know.
There were people watching. I can tell there were people watching from all over. But in talking about online evangelism, do you think that it is a threat to traditional evangelism? Some persons may think, the big tent outside or having evangelistic series.
It could be. Some could think of it as a threat. I actually think it's not a threat. I'm an evangelist. I'm a pastor, which means I do evangelism. So I do public evangelism. We go into Japan in a month to do a week-long series. But we're doing public evangelism. We're not doing 5 weeks anymore. Nobody's going to a 5 week. They won't show up for 4 weeks. We're really truncating it, because there is so much competing with the American mind and the average American. He said, I got to be online. I just can't be going somewhere every night. But I don't believe it's an either or. Right. I believe you need both. Okay. And there's certain kinds of people that will show up to a big event. Big sign, go in this gymnasium, go in this auditorium, this hotel ballroom or whatever. There are people who will go to that. It's both and. We have to be doing both. Okay. And we didn't get the results that we were dreaming we would get with Hope Trending. We have a mountain, but they're going to be lining up out there. Our Facebook numbers, wow. And we had, in the millions of with Twitter and all. Just they have these different ways. There's Jamie Schneider in the North American Division. Yes. She's Ms. Social media, and they brought her in. They brought her in from National Geographic, so she knows what she's talking about. So she was coaching us all the way through. We got incredible exposure. Here's the trick with online evangelism, and I'll tell this to those of you thinking about it. It's getting the decision, because you're working in a world of anonymity. Right. And there's this Life Church. Is it Life?
Life.church.
Life.church.tv or something like that. There's Craig, what's his name? Goshow. So this guy has congregations all over the U.S. because they meet in little auditoriums, but they're all connected online. This guy has figured out a way to get decisions. We used his platform because they offer it to you free. So we used his platform. We've got decisions. Every night I'm looking at the camera and saying, now, right now, go to your device, go to here, click here, and then here are the questions. So
asking people to do something.
You can get people to respond, but they're still anonymous. And what we've got to figure out, Felicia, is how can we move from anonymity to connection with a live human being with a name and an address. First, the email is fine. We don't have to know where your doorbell is.
Right.
But we do need your email address.
Right.
We want to be able to talk to you. If we got some bright young minds out there, if they can come on and say, hey, listen, guys, this is how you do it. The church is ready for it. We just simply did it. So the people would say, see, you can do it. But it's going to take some brighter minds in mind to say, okay, but here's how now. And gosh goes on to something with this lifechurch.tv or whatever it is. So that's Hope Trending.
Yeah. And as you mentioned that we want to let persons know, we haven't figured out everything when it comes to online evangelism, and that's why we need your help.
Right.
And there are volunteer opportunities. For example, with the Center for Online Evangelism, if you want to be a writer, a video editor, photographer, whatever it is, as Pastor Dwight said, we have bright young minds out there, especially in this digital age. So if there are suggestions that you have of how your church can utilize the internet and social media and so forth to reach more people, jump in. Let your pastors know. Let your communication directors know that, hey, I want to help. What can I do? Now, someone may be thinking, I'm not a member of Pioneer Memorial. We don't have the budget. We don't have the cameras. We don't have the lights and so forth. And they're thinking, we don't know how to start with online evangelism. What would you counsel to a church who says they don't have the budget or a full-time staff?
Here's what I say, Felicia. Look what you're doing right now. You got a smartphone propped on a tripod.
He's giving away all my secrets.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, but you got a smartphone on a tripod.
Yeah.
You're putting together something in Face Live that will go around the world, that will be watched by whomever, how many. But the point is, it's not a high budget item.
Right.
And that's what's happening now. The YouTube is proliferated by young Hollywood wannabes.
Yeah.
And they're putting their stuff together. And they're doing it with a smartphone.
This is true.
2 smartphones. They'll put one there, put one here, and they'll get it, they'll edit it, and they're ending up winning awards globally. Why? It's just it's a can-do spirit. And we can do it. God says, listen, folks, I own the airwaves. I invented the technology.
Right.
I'll help you. If you have a heart for this, if you're willing to go out where others have not gone, girl, boy, I'm here. I'm going to equip you and empower you, and you're going to be just what I need. I don't need you to be a movie star.
Yeah.
I need you to be a voice in the wilderness crying, make ready for the Lord.
Yes.
Make ready people prepare for the Lord.
I absolutely love that. I love that so much. We're winding down, and we just want to encourage you, as he was saying, if you have the willing heart, the Holy Spirit will fill you with what you need to take the gospel into all the world. What would be your final words? We have 2 more minutes. What would be your final words to young adults who are constantly on social media but are trying to find ways to reach out to their friends with the gospel, or church leaders or church pastors? What would be your final words to them?
My final words would be the word of Jesus. You remember when he healed the demoniac? Matthew says there were 2. Mark says there was 1. Okay? So Jesus has just healed the demoniac there on the opposite side of Galilee. And the demoniac is so moved by this man who has set his life free. He says, I'm going to be your disciple. I'm going to follow you. And Jesus said, no. My boys and me, we're getting in the boat. I want you to go back to your people. I want you to go to your whole social media world. I want you to move.
Facebook, go on Twitter.
Go into all of your social media world, and I want you to tell them one thing. Tell them what the Lord has done for you. Yes. There are people out there who are despairing, like the guy that did the blog. They're running out of hope. They're committing suicide. There are people that say, nobody loves me, nobody cares. And one little electronic beep from you that draws them into your humble but genuine, gracious, here's what Jesus has done in my life. And I tell you, my friend, whoever you are right now, Jesus is with you, and I'm going to pray for you. Send me a note, and I'll be praying for you by name. Give me your first name only. Yes. I'll be praying for you by name. That's all it takes.
Praise God.
Yeah.
Praise God. I mean, I was inspired by that. I'm like, yes, I want to go out and do that. Thank you so much, Pastor Dwight. Yeah. And thank you to all of you who are watching, who will watch at a later time. Remember, we have the resources that can help you to get started with an online ministry. You can sign up for our newsletters. Just visit centerforonlineevangelism.org. check out our Facebook page, like the page, share it. We also have a podcast where we talk to those who are blogging or those who are on YouTube and professionals who are involved in the world of online evangelism, as well as our spiritual leaders and pastors and so forth, to help you. So as Pastor Dwight said, there are people who are Googling for God. There are people who are reaching out, who have questions, who are depressed, and they just need someone to reach out to them. So won't that person be you? Thank you so much for tuning in. Pastor Dwight, thank you again.
Thank you, Felicia.
And we appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you all as you get involved, as you become more involved in online evangelism.